Hi, and welcome to the tutorial that goes along with our computer-aided drug design laboratory experience. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the myriad different pieces of software that work together to accomplish the drug discovery experience that you've read about in our journal article. I hope this is helpful, and if you need any further guidance, feel free to comment, and I will read the comments and respond as I'm able. This tutorial is meant to accompany the supplemental information document that was included with our journal article and ought to be read alongside that. In the supplemental information, you will see things about the desktop layout that you'll see in a moment, as well as where to download all of this software and the minimum system requirements for each program. All of the software that we're going to talk about is freely available, and it isn't very taxing on a computer. We ran this on fairly old laptop computers for our classroom beta test. So without further ado, let's go to my desktop. Before we can do any virtual screening, we need to draw each of our lead compound analogs in a way that the graphical user interface we use for screening will understand. And we accomplish this using Marvin Sketch, which is the window I just opened. As you can see, Marvin Sketch is a very intuitive program, and one draws molecules in this program by simply dragging and dropping bonds. In order to add a heteroatom, you simply highlight a carbon and press the appropriate letter key. I highlighted that carbon and pressed an N for nitrogen. You now highlight your constructed molecule, go to Structure, go to Clean 3D, and Clean in 3D. It then reorientates itself, which indicates that the molecule has been optimized in 3 dimensions and is now ready to load into PyRX. You then navigate to the ligand folder on your desktop, save it as the appropriate format, which is PDB, and call it ligand 5. You can see ligand 1, 2, 3, and 4 have already been added to this folder. So let's close that now. We'll open the ligands folder, and again, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 listed in this folder. These correspond to the 5 different ligands that were shown in the analog window at the beginning of this section of the tutorial. We now open PyRX, and you can see VenoWizard down in the bottom left. You can start simply by hitting Start. The first order of business when you open VenoWizard is to upload each of your 5 ligands and also your macromolecule. You can find your ligands where you just saved them in the ligand folder on the desktop. So one at a time we click them, upload ligand 1, and we're going to upload ligand 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the same way. You can see as you upload each ligand, a 3D representation of that ligand is shown in the gray window in PyRX. We now upload our macromolecule, which is histone deacetylase 2, and this is a file that's provided with the manuscript and the supplemental information. You can see hdac2.pdb, hit open, and now we highlight each of the ligands and the macromolecule. Select Forward. This box represents the grid within which the program will look for productive interactions between ligand and macromolecule. We can leave it as it is for our purposes. We don't need to move it. This screen indicates that the program has begun taking each small molecule and sampling a variety of poses within that grid that we just saw. My computer is relatively quick, and so this goes fairly quickly in this tutorial. Depending on the technology you have access to in your classrooms, this may take longer or shorter. The computers that we used for our classroom beta test were ancient, and they didn't take all that long for this. So I would imagine the vast majority of computers that you would be using would be able to do this fairly quickly. Now you can see a list of several poses for each of the docked ligands, and you can see a negative value under the Binding Affinity tab. The way this works is that when a small molecule that is a potent binder binds a protein, energy is released. And the more energy that is released, the more stable the complex, and thus the more potent the binder. And so what I'm doing now is finding the most negative value, the most potent binder under each of the ligands that are listed, and I'm double-clicking it, and it's populating the list up above. You can see HDAC2 ligand 1, HDAC2 ligand 2, and so forth. We're now saving as PDB files, and we're going to be saving these in the docked folder. Comparing the relative binding affinity of each of the compounds will give you an idea what PyRX thinks the most potent binder from your analog list is, and the ranking that PyRX would suggest. So in my abundant creativity, I am again naming them ligand 1, ligand 2, ligand 3, and so forth. You can name them whatever you want as long as you know what they are. Alright, they're now all saved in the docked folder. So we can open up PyMol at the bottom. Now I would suggest that you, as I've shown in this tutorial, have all of the programs already open for your students on their taskbar, because it saves quite a lot of time, especially if you're using slower computers. We're now going to go and track down the doclead.pse file, which is another one of the files that's provided in the supplemental information. And this file contains your lead orthoaminobenzimide docked to HDAC2. And there's a wide variety of different settings that I've used to display this in a way that I think is easy to see. Feel free to tinker with the settings. The best place to get an idea of how to do that is probably the PyMol wiki, which I have a link for in the supplemental information. Note that you can play around with structures to get an idea of steric and electronic complementarity. You can see spheres, you can see an electrostatic potential map of the active site residues, and many other things besides. We're going to upload each of our docked ligands by going to the docked folder and selecting the ligand after going to File and Open within PyMol. You can see that each ligand we select is populating the list on the right with another tab, and is also populating the visualization window with another wireframe model. Each of the tabs on the right is selectable, and so you can overlay any of these that you would like to compare them and try to get some idea why PyRX predicted the rank order that it did. You see that I'm selecting a different viewing mode. Depending on what you're using to play with PyMol, you may need to select a different viewing mode. In this case, I was using one of those Apple Magic Mice, which for PyMol isn't the most magical thing to use. Regular mouse works much better. Again, you can show sticks, you can show spheres, you can show electrostatic potential map. I would really advise that the educator play with PyMol. It's really a very powerful program. In essence, this is really the whole tutorial. If you have any questions remaining, please feel free to comment, and I will read them and respond as I'm able.